And as tensions in West Asia escalate, the Biden administration is preparing for the possibility to evacuate hundreds of thousands of American citizens from West Asia.
Now, that is a pressing concern. Tensions in West Asia are escalating. It's been nearly 3 weeks since war between Israel and the militant group Hamas began. According to officials familiar with the U.S. government's contingency planning, if the bloodshed in Gaza cannot be contained, thousands of American citizens will require evacuation from the larger West Asian region.
Now, the officials, speaking on the conditions of anonymity, said that Americans living in Israel and neighboring Lebanon are of particular concern, though they stress that an evacuation of that magnitude is considered the worst-case scenario and that other outcomes are seen as more likely. According to the State Department estimates, there were about 600,000 U.S. citizens in Israel and another 86,000 believed to be in Lebanon when Hamas attacked.
Now, the spectre of such an operation comes as Israeli forces, aided by U.S. weapons and military advisors, prepare for what is widely expected to be a dangerous ground offensive against Hamas militants. But till Israel launches its ground offensive, continuing Israeli airstrikes on Gaza have destroyed most of the neighborhood. Let's take a look at these visuals.
Officials from the Hamas-run health ministry say the overall death toll has risen to more than 5,700 people. More than half of those killed are women and children. This was before the updated death toll, as we told you, in the last 24 hours. There have been 700 more deaths. And according to the United Nations, about 1.4 million Gazans have been displaced, with more than 500,000 people in 147 U.S. shelters.
Now, according to the United Nations, more than 400,000 Palestinians are now categorized as internally displaced persons. Hundreds of thousands have packed into UN sheltering facilities, which are severely overcrowded now. And Israel is bombarding not only northern Gaza, but southern Gaza as well, including the border crossing city of Rafah. Israel's military has even told Gazans to move south. Otherwise, they could be identified as sympathizers with a terrorist organization if they stayed put. But even if these people moved south, they are still being bombarded with the Israeli strikes.
Not to mention that the south at the current moment is extremely overpopulated. Many families who left Gaza to the south said that they've lost relatives during the Israeli airstrikes in southern Gaza, although Israel says it did not target civilians. And our correspondent Susan Tehrani further brings us the updates on the status of American hostages being held by Hamas and the immediate policies concerning their release. Listen in.
The Biden administration says that it's engaged in prudent planning for worst-case scenarios where it would be required to evacuate hundreds of thousands of Americans from the Middle East region. While 600,000 Americans in Israel are a priority, Americans in Lebanon aren't safe either. Israel has already evacuated some of its citizens from its border with Lebanon. However, for the Biden administration, whose image has been shaped by the faulty withdrawal from Afghanistan, making these plans of evacuation is of utmost importance, and reporting on them and announcing them is also important, notably in an election year.